Welcome to Bellingham Voices. My name is Marie Marchand, your host, and we're here today with Riannon Bardsley. She's the Executive Director of Northwest Youth Services, a local nonprofit here in Bellingham. Welcome to the show, Riannon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So a few years ago, I heard you speak at Western Washington University, and I found your story really compelling. And you talked a lot about some challenges you had when you were young, and I was hoping you could share with us a little bit about your story from when you were younger.
Yeah, sure. When I was a young one, I was probably 12 or 13, I started getting bored like a lot of young people do, and I found myself doing quite a bit of shoplifting and ended up getting caught one day. And there were two options that I could have chosen. And one of them was paying a fine, and the other was to do community service. And so at the time, having no resources to pay a fine, I chose to do the community service. And it really was ultimately a diversion program. So I was able to complete a certain amount of hours for diversion and didn't end up having anything on my record, which was really wonderful. But the work that I decided to do was at the crisis clinic in Seattle, and there's a program that they were just starting called Teen Link, and it was where teens answered other teens' crisis phone calls, because what we know about young people is they often don't want to talk to adults, and the most powerful people in their lives are peers. And so I started volunteering and received about 25 hours of training through them before I ever got on the phone. And I never shoplifted again, but I did go to that job, that volunteer job, 4 hours a week for 4 years, and answered teen calls, teens who were in crisis. And then when I turned 18, so that was 14 to 18, and then when I turned 18, I couldn't take the calls anymore because I all of a sudden was no longer a peer, and became a supervisor for 4 years, again, volunteering my time each week to do that. And I found that before that experience, I wanted to do a lot of different things, but I never thought that I wanted to work with people in this way. And so having that experience and having made some small connections with young people over those years made me realize that I loved it, and I actually didn't want to or couldn't do anything else but this work. So that's kind of how I got into this field, and having a passion for young people who just didn't get the same opportunities that some of us have had, and have different support systems than some of us have. So it's been really cool to be able to work with young people and get to know them and their strengths, and so it's been very enjoyable. But that's kind of how I got here. That's my path to this work.
Thank you. So what are some causes of youth homelessness?
Well, there's a lot. There's, right, just even in your question, that it's not just one. So in working with young people, what I have found is that almost all of them have some type of domestic violence in their history. So their parents were involved in a domestic violence relationship, or they themselves engaged in a domestic violence relationship. So that the intimate violence, partner violence, is really prevalent in their experience, and then poverty. So those are two of the consistent things that we see young people that young people have experienced that help them on their path to experiencing homelessness. So it's not necessarily the causes, but it's definitely dynamic factors in why they are without healthy resources to call upon. And then the other thing is the natural support system, is that oftentimes young people just don't have a natural support system that can help them financially or emotionally sleep inside ultimately. And so we have we have young people who have an amazing amount of skills in life, and they just don't have that safety net. Like, I know that I will never become homeless. I know that because I have so many family members around me that could at some point, if I needed help, that they would be there for me, and not everybody has that. And so no matter what experience or trauma or unexpected life happenstance that occurs, I know that I will have a support system around me, and I'm lucky enough, and not everybody is born into a situation in which there are people around them. And so I think we as a society need to recognize that and look at our neighbors and each other in a little different way than we currently do. But there are quite a bit of factors. The other one is foster care. So a lot of young people that we see have been through the foster care system. Not that foster care causes them to be homelessness, but that there's something that's happening earlier on in families and in young people's lives that our systems and the interventions that we have right now are not effective for all young people. When 34% of the young people who age out of the foster care system end up homeless within a year, there's some significant system cultural issues happening there. So it's hard to get down to the root of it, but those are some of the common factors that we see in young people's lives.
Does your agency work with foster children then?
We do. Yeah, so we have a few programs. We have a housing program for minors, and we have two beds in that program that are designed and allocated specifically for foster care youth. Oftentimes, the young people that come into that program and into those beds have either been adopted and returned. They have been we had one recently who had been through 44 placements in their short life. So young people who are in the foster care system and just jumping, that they have no roots, they have no connection, and they're all over. They're going all over the state in these 44 placements. So they're not in school. They have no permanent connections whatsoever. So we work with them in that program, and then also we work with youth who have exited or graduated from the foster care system, so who are 18, 19, 20, that are experiencing homelessness. And so we work with them in our young adult housing program as well. And then we also see them in our street outreach program. Yep.
And you have a few other programs. I was interested in finding out more about the transitional living program. Is that what you were talking about?
So that's one of them, yeah. So for our 18 to 24-year-olds, we have a variety of different entry points that they can come into. And so we have a transitional living program. We have a permanent housing program, which is a partnership with the county and the Welcome Homeless Service Center. And we have some case management programs as well that help young people try and find apartments that they can afford. We also have vocational programs. So sadly, a lot of young people haven't gotten the opportunity to seek employment or learn any soft skills or learn how to learn. And so, that's the other thing we see consistently in this group of people, is that they did not get their education. It wasn't supported, and oftentimes failed, and they ultimately didn't learn how to learn new things. So they didn't learn that it's okay to make a mistake and we can keep going, right? And that it's not necessarily a failure, it's just practice. And so we have vocational programs that help young people learn how to learn. And so they learn in a garden, they learn in a screen printing shop, they learn on sewing machines, they learn by on-the-job training. So we hire young people and help them learn how to show up on time, some of those things, but also how to hear feedback and how to improve. And and help them feel successful in something so that they can then sell themselves in a job interview or even have something to put on a resume. Because that's the thing, just saying, okay, let's come and build a resume, come to a resume workshop. Well, these 18, 19, 20-year-olds sometimes have never even, there's nothing to put on their resume. And so we are trying to provide them with as many opportunities as possible for them to have positive experiences on the job, and then be able to go into an interview and talk about how teamwork, examples of how teamwork work for them and what role they play in a team, and those kinds of questions that they wouldn't necessarily have an answer for previously. Mm-hmm. So that's been very cool. So that's another program of ours. And then we have the Teen Court program, which is really near and dear to my heart, because they have, it's a diversion program. So it actually gives young people the opportunity that I got, which was to avoid the traditional criminal system and be involved in a courtroom of their peers. So the jury and the judge and the bailiffs and the advocates, we don't call them attorneys, but the advocates, they actually are all peers. And so it's a peer telling them that that behavior is unacceptable and doesn't work, or it's ineffective. And so the consequences are a variety of things, but one of them is community service, sometimes assigned by the jury. So that is a very cool program that is quite successful. And we see a lot of young people, not just on the defendant side, so not just the young person who committed the crime learn and change their behavior, but also the peers that are volunteering for the program. So they start getting this love for justice system and seeing how they can have a positive effect in their community, and that they can actually positively influence other people. And so it's been a very cool program. We see probably 200 volunteers a year through that program, young people, and about 34 cases go through, and it's during the school year, and a partnership with the school districts in the county. So it's a very cool program.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Great. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Riannon.
Hi, I'm Craig Mueller, Public Works Engineer with the City of Bellingham. 120 years ago, Patton Creek was diverted into an underground tunnel nearly a half-mile long. This tunnel begins at 22nd Street near Old Fairhaven Parkway and runs underground for several blocks until it reaches the outflow near Fairhaven Park. Today, a project is underway to reroute Patton Creek out of the tunnel and into the daylight. The new stream will restore fish habitat, reduce flooding, and improve water quality. The problems with the old tunnel begin at the inlet. The tunnel's limited water carrying capacity causes flooding problems both above and below the inlet, affecting over 15 city blocks of residential housing. The problems persist as Patton Creek continues through the tunnel. Without natural structures, dirt, sediments, and other particulates have nowhere to settle, creating water quality problems downstream. At the outlet, several blocks away, the tunnel is a barrier to fish migrating upstream. The tunnel structure blocks the path of migrating salmon, reducing the number able to reach upstream spawning habitat. The construction project will reroute the stream, restoring the natural ecology of Patton Creek. Let's look at the new route for Patton Creek, beginning at the inlet, where waters from Lake Patton enter the tunnel. Near the inlet, a new stream channel will be created. The inlet will be modified to divert the water away from the tunnel and into the new stream channel. From the inlet, the stream flows west to 22nd Street, where a culvert will be built to allow the water to flow under 22nd Street and into the downstream portion of the creek. This portion of 22nd Street will be closed for about 2 months during construction. The new channel continues on, running parallel to Old Fairhaven Parkway until it reaches the new bridge built in 2014 by the Washington State Department of Transportation. Here the channel turns south, allowing the creek to flow under the bridge and toward the interurban trail. As the stream flows along the south side of Old Fairhaven Parkway, It will pass under the footbridge at the Interurban Trail Rotary Trailhead. As part of the project, this footbridge will be removed and replaced by an 8-foot wide pedestrian bridge designed to go over the new stream. The creek continues on alongside the Interurban Trail. The new channel will follow the current drainage connecting with downstream waters here at the outlet. The original tunnel will remain in place, serving as a stormwater overflow with modified inlet and outlet to prevent fish from entering. Construction will begin in early June, and all in-stream work will be completed by October 1st. This limited time is determined by the fish window, the time when migrating, spawning, or incubating fish are least likely to be within the project site and least likely to be impacted by the work. During construction, neighbors can expect trees and vegetation removed where the new channel will be created, excavation equipment and trucks in the construction area, closure of the Interurban Trail Rotary Trailhead off Old Fairhaven Parkway, closure of a portion of the Interurban Trail from the Fairhaven Park Trail to where the trail meets 18th and Clementine near the Patton Creek apartments. Bike and foot traffic will be detoured during this time. Closure of 22nd Street for approximately 2 months during the construction and installation of the culvert. The final stage of the project is replanting and caring for the natural vegetation. Native trees and shrubs will be planted along the damaged areas and with time will grow back into a fully functioning and improved ecosystem. The cost of the construction phase is $2.8 million. Portions of the funding come from a State of Washington Department of Ecology Centennial Clean Water Grant and a low-interest loan as part of the State Clean Water Revolving Fund. When finished, this project will allow Patton Creek to flow naturally through the project area on its way into Bellingham Bay, restoring an important natural resource and protecting our water, our neighborhood, and our salmon. For more information, visit cob.org and search for Patton Creek daylighting.
Welcome back to Bellingham Voices. My guest today is Riannon Bardsley, and she's from Northwest Youth Services. The City of Bellingham provides some funding for your agency in the form of grants and loans, and some of the grants have sponsored the programs you were just telling us about. And something that sounds really exciting is 22 North, the Capitol Building Project, and some Bellingham Home Fund money is being used for that, and that's from the levy that the voters voted for a few years ago. So can you tell us about 22 North, what that is and what we can expect?
Yeah, well, it's in process, so I'll tell you that. So there's no final designs at this point, but what we do know is that we as a community need more affordable housing units. So that's one of the things that we continue to run up against is a very low vacancy rate in Bellingham, which causes the rents to increase significantly, and it makes it really challenging for people on fixed and very low incomes to access housing. So one of the things that one of the goals of the housing levy is to create more affordable housing units. And so Northwest Youth Services currently owns a piece of land right next to our building on 1020 North State Street. And what we are wanting to do is build housing units there so that young people who have many more barriers to accessing market rate housing units can access them through Northwest Youth Services. So right now, we don't actually control any of our units for our 18 to 24-year-olds. They're either master leased or we have partnerships with a landlord. But still, there's maybe a dozen or so young people that have enough barriers that keep them from accessing any of the partnerships that we've been able to arrange. So the idea is to build our own so that we can get young people, vulnerable young people, inside sooner, or inside period, depending on the young person and the history that they have. So, or what they look like on paper. So we want anywhere between 10 and 40 units on that property. We did receive some funding from the Bellingham levy for 10 units, but we are looking, because the law actually can can take on more than just those 10 units, and the community needs some. So we're looking at partnering with Opportunity Council, possibly Lydia Place, and others to make it so that even more people can access it than just the 10 that Northwest Youth Services is looking at. So possibly building in partnership, maybe up to 40 units on that lot, which would be very exciting and very cool. So that's kind of the project where it is right now, and we're still moving forward. So we're having active conversations with the city planning department and the Opportunity Council and others to see exactly what the end project will be for our community.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
I hope it goes well.
Yeah, me too.
Riannon, what's the best way for people to get in contact with your agency?
Well, there's a few ways. So one, you could come in. So 1020 North State Street is where our office is located in Bellingham. And you can also find us through the website, which is www.nwys.org. And there's a place for young people to reach out and contact a case manager. So they can do it online that way. You can also find us on Facebook, and you can give us a call at 360-734-9862.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
And something that I have to ask every guest on here, since it's Bellingham Voices, what's your favorite thing to do in Bellingham?
My favorite thing to do in Bellingham, I would say at this point, I think it changes, but at this point where my life is, my favorite thing to do in Bellingham is to bike. I love to go bike riding with my kids and my wife. And so we bought a tandem this last year, and so my wife and our oldest daughter ride the tandem together. And then my youngest has her own, and so she rides and then I ride, and we just go all over the place. It's a beautiful city to ride your bike in, so that's what we do.
In the tandem, that sounds like
It's
a lot of fun.
It's hard.
Well, thanks so much for being our guest today. I've enjoyed our time together.
Thank you, me too.
Thanks for joining Bellingham Voices. We'll see you next time.